Peptides, steroids, maybe some testosterone. If you're considering any of these, trying to gain your next 20 pounds of muscle fast, then you're doing it wrong. So on today's video, we're gonna run through 3 proven muscle building accelerators to make you large and in charge. The first one being the holy powder. And I'm not talking about that kind that the young ones be hammering on the weekend. I'm talking about this guy, the good old reliable creatine monohydrate. Or simply put, the GOAT. Creatine monohydrate is one of the most researched supplements on the market. It is the best addition that you can add in a muscle building journey. When you're pushing for results in your health and fitness, it's a non-negotiable in my eyes. But you may know that already. You've probably heard it online, but you may not know why. When it comes to muscle building, resistance training in the gym will be very important. You want to make sure you're progressively overloading your lifts, improving over time, allowing that to compound week after week. Well, in training, what energy do we actually use? For short bursts of energy, like resistance training, we're going to use our CP system. You will have different energy pathways given the training that you're currently doing. But for weights, that's the one. Better known as your creatine phosphate system. Now, we do get creatine from food, a lot of meats, but it doesn't exactly peak our CP levels. We can max that out by adding creatine monohydrate in. If your creatine phosphate levels are sat here, there may be room to get it up here, which will have a direct positive impact on your performance in the gym. When you supplement creatine daily, in and around 5 gram per day, anywhere from 5 to 7 gram, over the following 2 to 3 weeks, you will reach a peak. Your body will now hold and store a higher CP level. Now, there's a lot out there on like creatine loading, trying to get as much in the early weeks. For me, I've seen the studies on both ends. There are some to back creatine loading, there are some that just say take it at the normal dosage. So what I'd recommend doing, start off with 5 to 7 gram each morning, as that's when you're going to remember it, and keep that in consistently over the next few months. For me, I've been on creatine monohydrate for the last 10 years, probably had some impact on the results I've personally achieved. So whenever our CP levels are a lot higher, you will notice this on your performance in the gym. It won't be anything crazy, of course, but you will be able to gain an extra rep or 2 at the back end of your sets. Doesn't sound like much, but think of that over time. What will an extra rep or 2 each week do to your muscle building results? If you're able to progressively overload just a touch faster, that compounding over a year will be huge. A 1 or 2% change here can give you the difference of 10 or 20% in results. Over the longer term, of course. You have to be patient. And the analogy that I like to use here, it's like a savings account. If you're depositing some money into your savings account weekly, having no creatine is like having no interest on your savings. But having creatine is like the interest. You don't see that much weekly or even monthly. But over the years, you're going to see that compound. Plus that then as well, there's a lot of new research coming out on the positive effects creatine supplementation has on mental performance and psychological health. It's a no-brainer in my eyes, regardless of the age you are. Even if you don't train in the gym. But if you're watching this, I know you are. So that's the first accelerator. The next 2 to 3 are going to be most important, which can be done without creatine, of course. And you don't want to miss the third, as it is where most people get it wrong. Second result accelerator will be training intensity. From my years of coaching in the industry, this is the biggest bottleneck that I see with people's training. They think training more will equal to more muscle. If I'm doing 4 days, maybe I should hit 5 or 6, perhaps even 7. More is going to get me more back, right? That's wrong. More is not equal to more, as it is quality over quantity at the end of the day. If you took one individual training 6 days a week, but the quality of that training wasn't great, versus another individual doing 3 sessions per week with insane levels of training quality and intensity, the person on 3 will win every day. So you will always get more results off doing 3 to 4 days per week as opposed to 6 or 7. Sometimes maybe 5 if you can balance the recovery right. Heck, even some of my business owners, they're only doing 2 days per week and they're achieving insane results. So we have to look at the reasons of why here. The goal of training should be to create stimulating volume, not junk volume. And then we have to ask the question, what is stimulating volume? This, my friend, is called training close toward failure, or all of the way there. And I remember starting out as a PT. I've been training for a few years then. I hired my first coach, sent over one training video, and he was like, Leon, that is trash. And I didn't understand until he broke it down for me. You're not training as hard as you think in the gym. Studies back, the final 5 reps before you achieve true muscular failure are dubbed the stimulating reps. So every exercise we do in the gym and every set, we want to accumulate as many stimulating reps as possible. But if you keep stopping before you even reach or close to true training to failure, then how can you expect to grow? Because the first 75% of your set ain't gonna do anything for you. And you might be thinking, how do you actually know? Well, for example, if I was doing a bench press and my reps were looking something like this, if I re-rack and I was able to press up that fast at the same speed as when I first started the set, I'm nowhere close to failure. The final few reps of your set should look something like this. if you're actually getting close toward failure. This, my friend, is called the concentric part of a rep, i.e. when you go to contract the muscle. For a curl, it'd be this here. For a push down, it'd be that there. You need to see the rep speed start to slow down if you're actually training close toward failure. Now, where I see a lot of people go wrong with this is they will be training quite hard, trying to get close toward failure. But then as it starts to get tough, the shoulder lifts, the hips lift, the momentum comes in, the swinging, well, then you're just pissing away the set. As if you have any breakdown of form, you're going to lose that stimulating tension away to another muscle group. Accuracy plus failure is where you win. Embrace that level of discomfort at the back end of your sets. When the reps get hard, don't change your form. Keep digging, keep pushing, and I can promise you will grow. If you fix your training, you can fix your results. And finally, our final accelerator. This is probably the most important out of all three. I'm sure you would have heard of a calorie surplus, which is the best environment for muscle to grow. It's where your body is going to have enough energy to create new muscular adaptation, or simply put, muscle growth. That said, you cannot go into a surplus if you're anything above 15% body fat. I can promise you, it's not going to work. Have a look at this for me. If you're anything more than 15% on the graph, trust me on this, you've got to do fat loss first. Now, you can still build when you're pushing for fat loss. Yes, you have to move your body into a calorie deficit, which is the opposite of what I mentioned a minute ago. But if you're anything above 15% body fat, you have the energy to build on the way down. Check out some of these. All these lads up here are proof of that. Between left and right, this was all fat loss in a calorie deficit, but they leveraged their training intensity for some insane results as they were pulling body fat off and reducing body weight as well. Coming from anything above 15% body fat, the fastest way to make it look like you've gained 20 pounds of muscle is to lose 20 pounds of fat. It's that simple. What I recommend is getting to at least 10 to 12% body fat before you move into a calorie surplus, as this is where your body is going to be most sensitive to food and nutrient partitioning. When you move into a surplus from 10 to 12% body fat, more of that surplus will be driven towards new muscular adaptation. As the leaner you are, the more insulin sensitive you are, so your partitioning toward new muscle will be at its highest. And where I see most people go wrong is they may get lean, but then they go into a real heavy surplus, and they end up gaining more fat than actual muscle, needing to diet down again 2 months later. This phrase is so important. Slow and steady wins the race. That is so applicable when it comes to a surplus. It only takes a very, very small surplus to build the most amount of new muscle on a week-by-week basis. The body can only build around 150 grams or 250 grams at max of new muscle per week. That's a fact, unless you're jabbing yourself in the arse with some of the good stuff. But I ain't about that stuff. And if you're watching this, you're probably not too. And the slower you take it, the leaner you stay. The leaner you stay, the better the sensitivity, the better the nutrient partitioning. So over time, the most of those calories are going to be driven toward muscle building as opposed to fat building. Now, you don't have to stay super lean, but generally, if you can still see your abs the whole way throughout a gaining phase, you're doing it right. So once you get down to 10 to 12% body fat, I'd recommend finding your maintenance calories. You can use something like a calorie counter online, or just take a guess, because then I'd track my body weight 7 days a week on an app like Happy Scale, which is really, really useful for that. And once you have the first week versus the second week, you can see if those calories that you've chosen have kept you in a deficit, at maintenance, or already moved you into a surplus. But I'd recommend ensuring it's at maintenance first. Following on from that, I'd drip feed 200 calories in per week to get rate of gain moving in the right direction. I'd probably recommend doing that in the form of carbohydrate, as carbohydrate will be your body's main fuel for performance in the gym. And when you continue those weekly body weight comparisons, you want to aim for anywhere from 0.125% to 0.25% of your body weight per week at the maximum. Now you might be thinking, Leon, that's quite slow. But that is the difference between going into a surplus for only 2 or 3 months versus anywhere from 6 to 12 months. Who do you think is going to build more muscle? The person who's exposed to the surplus for the longest will always win. And that is it. That is all you need for the fastest way to gain your next 20 pounds of muscle. And not to show off, I'm kind of an expert at this. Just have a look at some of our results over here. All of these once had the exact same doubts and questions as you. What's right for muscle building? How can I change my physique? How can I become the person I want to be? And they were tired of winging it and guessing, going into the gym without a plan, winging their food on a day-by-day basis. And they were fed up, and all it took was one conversation. If you'd like to rule out the guesswork and get a solid plan in place, that'll guarantee you results. The link to a one-to-one coaching call with me personally is in the description below. Book in for the chat. It's just to see if I can help you. If you feel like it's what you need to get you to where you want to be, you can take the help. If not, it's absolutely fine. You'll get some value from the call anyway. And other than that, make sure to like and subscribe. Drop your thoughts into the comments. Let me know if you agree with all this. And if you disagree, I definitely want to hear from you, as I'm open to your opinion. I'll catch you in the next one.